Hey there! Welcome to another edition of Adam's Reviews. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers and would love to hit that number. Today, I've got a video that's going to blow you away. Well, it'll blow you away if you're about 20 pounds or so. A while ago, we picked up a large Harvest Right freeze dryer, and I'll be doing a review on that in the future. If you don't have one, then you might not realize how much heat a freeze dryer puts out when it's in operation. I'll give you a hint. It's a lot. We have ours in our laundry room, which is a fairly small room. And when the freeze dryer tries to get down to its minus 40 temperature to start the sublimation process, if there's a lot of ambient heat around the device, it will cause it to take a lot longer to complete its cycle. It won't even be able to complete the cycle at all if it's too hot. This is a big problem for South Central Texas, where it's frequently 90 plus degrees starting around April, and it doesn't let up until October. Yeah, you pretty much melt here for most of the year. We tried using just a regular fan to move the air out of the laundry room, but it wasn't enough. It moved just enough air to complete the cycle, but the whole time, the freeze dryer was displaying a message about the room being too warm. So, what to do? Enter this beast of a fan. It's a 24-inch metal drum fan made by a company named Deluxe. With this in place on top of the freeze dryer, it moves more than enough air to keep the temperature in the laundry room down far enough to where the freeze dryer can do its job. Since we got this fan, there hasn't been a single time where we get the room too warm message on the display. So let's dive into the pros and cons. So for the pros, there's 3 different speeds, and the company claims its cubic feet per minute on high is 4,700, on medium it's 4,000, and on low it's 3,400. And we're going to test out these claims. Typical plug that fits in a regular US electrical outlet. It has wheels and a handle to move it around easy. It's a very simple assembly process, and it produces a massive amount of air movement. So the cons: it's expensive for a fan. It's around $240 on Amazon. There are cheaper fans with similar specifications available though. It's extremely loud compared to a typical fan. You're not going to hear much of anything around you with this thing running, and we'll find out just how loud it is compared to an ordinary box fan. It's much heavier than a box fan, and it's only available in yellow. That's only a con if you really care about the color of your fan. Okay, now to do some field testing. All right, so I think that the first thing that I'm gonna do is just turn it on, so that way you can kind of get an idea about like how loud this thing is just by virtue of hearing it. And I'll do it on low first, and then switch to medium, and then switch to high. And the reason why I'm telling you that now is because this thing is super loud, and you won't be able to hear me. All right, so now that we've heard just the raw audio of it, I want to be able to like actually quantify like how loud is it. Just hearing it doesn't really do it any, like you can't really tell, especially on a video. It just kind of, you heard like the differences in level. I don't have any of these pieces of gear they don't do anything like auto compensate for the sound level. So you can hear the difference in the sound, but it still doesn't really give you any kind of quantifiable measure. Whereas with the sound pressure level meter, we'll be able to tell that. So like just with me talking right now, it's registering at about like 70-ish for decibels. So that'll kind of give you an idea about like how loud just my regular voice is, like 70-ish decibels or so. So let's go ahead and see. I have this stretched out to about 3 feet. So that way when I do this test, because I'm gonna also be testing just like a regular old little box fan, just your typical standard box fan. And I'll go ahead and get that one 3 feet away as well, so that way we have a consistent test. So that was about 72 decibels at 3 feet. So we'll go up to medium now and see how loud that is. So with medium, it's 77.5 decibels. So let's go ahead and crank it all the way up and see what we get when we go all the way to high on this. So we're at 77.5 decibels when it's all the way maximum. That's at 3 feet. So next up, I want to know, like, how many cubic feet of air does this thing actually move? And let's find out. All right, so I have an anemometer right here, which will tell me exactly like how much the miles per hour is that comes out of this thing. Like right now we got a breeze outside and we're about 2.2 miles per hour with the breeze. I don't know if you cared about that, but I'm just letting you know. So once again, just to be consistent, I'm gonna do it at 3 feet. So that way we're consistent. And I'll also do it on low, medium, and high again, just so that way we can have individual results for each one. Okay, so when it's on low, I'm getting 11 miles per hour maximum. So let's see what we get on medium. So that's interesting. It was still only 11 miles per hour. So bumping it up, I know it moves more air. So I guess maybe just looking at this isn't gonna be able to tell us like how the volume of air that's moving. It's gonna say how fast the wind is blowing. All right, so let's try it on high. High, I gotta imagine it's gotta be blowing faster than that. So once again, that's kind of a surprising reading. Only got 11.8 miles per hour when it's on high, which is really surprising. I would expect that this thing would have just gone off the, I mean, this thing it can measure very high winds, but I would have expected that to have been like significantly more. But I mean, we're like 11 miles an hour on low, 11 miles an hour on medium, and 11.8 miles an hour on high, which is really surprising because you can feel a dramatic difference in the amount of wind that's getting generated by this thing. But according to the meter, it's really not that much of a difference between all three of those settings, which that's really surprising, and I would have never guessed it would have been that low. I would have figured it would have been at least a 5 mile an hour increment jump on each one of those settings, but you know, science doesn't lie. Okay, so next, now that we got the data out of this one, I'm gonna go ahead and drag over the little box fan and just I'll put it side by side so that way you can kind of get an idea of like the difference in how big they are compared to one another. Okay, so this is the comparison between the two of them, and as blatantly obvious, the little tiny box fan compared to the 24-inch drum fan, it's a pretty big difference, even if you hold it directly up. So like, I know this is on a little bit of a thing, it's still like significantly larger. All right, so let's get our tests on this little box fan. And like most fans, it has 3 speeds, so we'll go through all the different speeds. Okay, so to start off with, we'll just go ahead and go through each speed the same way that I did this one. This one it still has the same concept, low, medium, high, but this one actually has it numbered, so it's 1, 2, and 3, so I can just hold up my finger again. So we'll start with the low speed. I don't even know if you can hear that. That's how quiet it is compared to this thing. That's on low speed. That's medium. A little bit louder. It's still way quieter than this thing, even on the lowest speed. And then here's on high. So that does generate a decent amount of noise. I would say it's probably still quieter on high, still quieter than this thing is on low. All right, so like we did with the drum fan, we're gonna go ahead and, for one thing, let me just move this out of the way just in case it might have some sort of effect. If it's too close, it might, affect how much air can get pulled through. We're gonna go ahead and get a reading here and see like how loud it is at 3 feet compared to this thing here. 54.2 was what we were at. So let's go ahead, reset this, turn it up to 2, get another reading. 59 dB on that one. And let's crank it all the way up to fastest speed. 65.1. So significantly not as well, significantly less loud than that than the drum. That drum is very loud. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what sort of miles per hour we can get out of this thing. It's about 3 miles an hour, 3.1 miles an hour. So let's crank this up to 2, see what we get. 4.5 miles an hour. Now hitting 4.7 miles an hour. So maximum was about 4.7 miles an hour. Okay, let's go to 3. 5.6 miles an hour. So we got a maximum of 5.6 miles an hour with this one. So this one does show that there's significant jumps between the various speeds. I'm wondering if that's because the fan blades are much shorter, so that way the volume of air that it's moving is in a much narrower area as opposed to this one. The surface area on this is a lot larger. That might be the reason why there's not much of a difference in the readings, whereas with this one there's a noticeable difference. Not huge, but it's still noticeable. So all right, that's all the data that we're going to get out of these things, and let's go ahead inside for the conclusion. In summary, if you need a fan that can move a ton of air and you don't care about how loud it is, a fan like this is for you. The biggest recommendation I have is to try out some of the cheaper fans with similar specs first. I could have bought something much cheaper, and I bet I would have still wound up with the same results. That said, I can't prove my assertion since this is the only drum fan I own, but I have a sneaking suspicion I spent too much for what I got. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya. Bye.